Good morning. People have been asking me for a while what I'm going to talk about this morning. After, they would ask, is it going to be a camp story or is it going to be a diabetic story? Well, I can now tell you with some degree of certainty that it is indeed both. Though these are only elements of the story that I'm going to tell you to prove the point I'm going to make. Today I'm going to share with you a lesson that has completely reshaped the way that I look at myself and as my life as a whole. Now, people will tell you that you're too young to know everything, but that doesn't mean you haven't learned some valuable lessons. So here's mine. To begin, I'm going to share with you some of the things in my life that I've kept down and hidden. As some of you already know, I'm a diabetic. No, this does not mean I ate too much sugar when I was a kid, and yes, I can eat sugar, and I do love sugary things. My diabetes is the part of my life that I'm least open about. The biggest part of my disease that I hide from you is that sometimes it really does suck, and it causes me to be uncomfortable and upset for an entire day. And for no other reason than something just isn't going right diabetically, and there's nothing you can do about it. Feeling this way makes me feel different and like an outsider, simply because I think that no one will understand how I'm feeling, and it doesn't seem worth it to burden them by letting them into this part of my life. This is also where vulnerability comes into play. There isn't any part of my life that makes me feel more vulnerable than my diabetes. And that's why I'm choosing to share this part of myself with you today. I wasn't always this self-conscious about my diabetes though. When I was younger, I had no problem sharing with the people around me, and if I ever felt bad, I just told someone. And as I grew up, I became more independent, and I started to realize just how different my diabetes made me feel. And now I know this all sounds like a cliche you've heard before, but it really is important, and that's why I'm going to be sharing my most vulnerable moment with you this morning. This summer, I worked at summer camp, and I'd been going there for years, and this time I was working as a camp counselor. This meant that I was the new mother of 8 rambunctious little gremlins. And it was all going really well until the last night of the first session. I had just finished the last round of packing up the bags for all the kids to go home, and I was getting ready to head down to their send-off celebration on the beach. All of this was going perfectly normally until apparently I started to walk away from the group and head off on my own. I say apparently because for whatever reason, I have no memories of anything past sitting down and singing campfire songs. It was as I was walking away that a couple of my friends called after me and then watched me fall down. And it was at this point they called the nurses over to see what was wrong with me. Now I owe each of these people some serious favors for recognizing that something was wrong with me even when I couldn't. And up to this point, I didn't feel vulnerable simply because I can't remember. As it turns out, my blood sugar was extremely low and I was in a not so great situation. The part that I struggle with now is the part when I start to remember again. I started coming to surrounded by 2 nurses and the daughter of the camp director, who also happens to be the mother of a diabetic child. And I found myself surrounded by all these people that I had trusted for years, plus all the staff and campers around. And I felt like I had failed each and every one of these people. But most importantly, I felt that I had failed myself. And that's the part I struggle with. I ended up calling my mom, and all I managed to say to her was, "Mom, I screwed up." Now, this isn't actually true, but it's at this point that I just felt so beaten down and broken. Now, this story isn't meant to be sad or upsetting, but rather it serves as a critical turning point in my life. And I realized after that none of the people around me saw me any differently than before, mostly due to the hard work of the people around me. Some of the kids who were around just thought that we were having a medical drill and that I was the one they had to practice saving. And my own kids were kept well away from the area and saw me at breakfast the next day as excited as ever and like any other normal day. And all of my friends and the staff who saw me and helped me out just wanted me to know that they would always be there to support me and that they would have my back 100% of the time. And they just wanted to make sure that I was okay. It's the last part of the story that I wanted to share with you today. All these people saw me at my most vulnerable and at my very worst. And yet they were still there to support me and saw me for what I was and not for my disease. This spark did change me. For the rest of the summer, I was much more open with all of these people. And I even began sharing with some of my campers and letting them have someone to lean on too. The problem is, when I got back to school in the fall, I seemed to forget or ignore what had happened. I'm not entirely sure why, but for some reason or another, I felt that this should be something that I should be ashamed of. And because of that, it wasn't worth sharing with anyone else because I didn't want to be seen as different or broken. And I'm not sure why this happened, but I know it's not true now because I'm surrounded by caring people who see me for what I am and no less. But this was something that I still found very hard. The only thing that was more difficult than not talking about what happened that summer was keeping all of those negative feelings bottled up inside of me for so long. And the fact is, I can count the number of people that I've shared that story with on one hand up until this morning. I'm not sure what changed between getting back from camp and starting school again, but I found myself being more reserved about my diabetes than ever before. Then all of a sudden, something changed. I'm not sure why it happened or what it was, but I guess something snapped and enough was enough. And I found myself opening up to my advisor. I sat in her office and had a complete breakdown during the first week of school. It was this sharing and this openness that has allowed me to get the support that I need and to move forward with my life from this event. And it's allowed me to grow not only as a person, but also as a friend. Because seeing the support that I got this summer and the complete and utter compassion that everyone showed me has allowed me to show these same feelings to the people who have opened up to me in my life. And this is an important lesson for all of us to learn. So whether you're graduating this June or sometime in the near future, being able to give support to the people around you not only helps them, but it also increases your own support network. The final part of this is what seems like a really simple concept, but it's the most important one of all. And that's being ready to accept someone's support. Now, many people will tell you the most vital first step is asking for help. And while this is a very important part of this journey, it should actually follow you getting yourself ready to accept someone's help. I learned this as part of my journey to deal with accepting my vulnerability. It taught me that I could say all the right things as much as I wanted, and that I could tell myself that I was ready. But the truth is, I wasn't going to make any progress until I really dug down and asked myself why it was that I needed help. And once I got down to that why, I was able to share this with others, and it allowed them to become the best supporters for me that they could be. Asking for help is a massive, scary step. But asking yourself why it is you need help is an even bigger, scarier one. Because it forces us to face our biggest fears and our deepest regrets. But then again, shouldn't we all be living a life with no regrets? Accepting our vulnerabilities allows us to become the young leaders that we all aim to be. And it makes us unique and teaches us infinitely valuable lessons. And now, it wouldn't be very open of me to stand in front of you this morning and tell you that I've conquered all of my vulnerabilities and I'm perfect now, because that just isn't true. Though, since the summer, my vulnerabilities have changed. Now, sometimes I wake up completely terrified that I'm going to have a repeat of the day that I had this summer. In fact, I had a smaller, less serious version while I was up at Temagami this winter as an SOL. And even all the way up in Temagami, I found myself surrounded by a caring and concerned support network who just wanted to see me do my very best. And on these days when I'm terrified that something bad is going to happen, it takes a lot of effort for me to engage with people, and even more effort for me to share my vulnerabilities and how I'm feeling. And while sometimes I'll share these feelings with the people around me, the majority of the time I still bottle them up and hide them away. At least now I realize that I am hiding these feelings, and I can work towards being more open with the people around me and taking advantage of all the different supports that I have. Now, All of us here in this chapel have vulnerabilities. It's just part of growing up and discovering who we are as individuals. And the fact is, we are also all each other's greatest supporters. I look out today and I see the faces of people I know would give me the same compassion and support that I got this summer. And I see the faces of people who've been supporting me for years without even knowing it. Now it is time for us all to make a change. Sometime over the next hour or day or week, or really however long it takes you, take that big step and really ask yourself, what makes you vulnerable and why do you need help? What is the one event or feeling that you wish you could share with someone, but you haven't done it yet? And I promise you that as scary as it is to share these feelings with people, opening yourself up and sharing this burden makes it so much better. And then when you're finally done this, ask yourself, how can you reach out to those people who have asked you for support in your life? Diabetes has been a significant part of my life for almost 12 years now. And it really is my greatest vulnerability. It's taught me so much, and now I leave these questions with you. What's your vulnerability, and what will it teach you? The only way you're going to figure it out is if you take that leap and open yourself up to someone. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, sharing is caring. Please rise and sing hymn 352.